Hey everyone, it's John Corella, one of the co-creators and executive producer of Dance Moms.
Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast, your podcast. I hope everyone had a really good Labor Day of relaxing and just being. I know I did. And with the beauty of technology, I still am on vacation and I am recording for you all. So we have a special episode. I don't really like that word, special. All of us are special. None of us are special. But we have a new episode, which is a compilation of all the good moments from this past season. I can't believe this is episode 20. So it's pretty amazing what God can do. I had this idea. I got this idea a year ago when my mom was recovering from kidney cancer. And it's been a whirlwind of a year for her. She had a stroke, and for all of us, she's doing good now. But this podcast has helped me to always center me, and I hope it's done that for you as well. So in our first little segment, we have the Dance Moms. You all love the Dance Moms. You always, when I look at how the data regarding episodes, I'm always kind of blown away. Not really, but how well the Dance Mom episodes do. It's no surprising. They're vulnerable, transparent, and have done some pretty amazing things since being on the show. So in this first segment, we have Dance Mom Christi, Reverend Dawn, as you all know her as Minister Dawn, and Dance Mom Gina and Lennon Torres from Dance Moms. And they both brought something different to the podcast. Christi with forgiving herself, seeing herself on television over and over again, doing mistakes that she wouldn't do now, and how she copes with that, and giving us advice that mistakes don't go away, even for dance moms. We make them all the time, and how to forgive ourselves. And I was re-listening to Reverend Dawn and just her knowledge of the Bible. It's pretty mind-blowing. I know that you got to see that little segment of her and know her as Minister Dawn, but now you know why she was called Minister Dawn. She has a great knowledge and preaches, and I learned a lot from her. And then we have Gina and Lennon, who Lennon, as a transgender woman, is bold, powerful, vulnerable, and we hear her speak, and her mom, just how accepting and loving and simple, how simple it is. And let's hear all their advice on loving themselves and loving your children.
I make mistakes. Some have been on TV. That is my tagline in life. It's true.
So collectively, we make mistakes. Dance moms at dance competitions, they do it in front of a group of 5 women, maybe 10. You did it in front of millions of people. How did you forgive yourself looking back? And did you? I'm not assuming, I don't want to assume either that you thought you didn't need to, but looking back at yourself at mistakes you made.
Oh, I mean, I'll be completely honest. There are still things that I struggle with because they're so egregious when you go back and you watch them. But I think the way I look at it is that for most of the world, the mistakes that you make are over. They don't exist. You know what I mean? Like once they're over. And what I mean by that is the only thing that exists is the present. Like if you go back and you were like, the Civil War happened. I heard somebody else give this example. This is not my example. You would be like, okay, yes, the Civil War did happen. But if you said, go outside right now and show me evidence that the Civil War happened, you couldn't show anybody evidence. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is somebody telling you it existed or the memory of it. So to me, everybody's past doesn't really exist. The only people holding on to it are the people retelling it or your own brain. However, when you make mistakes that are repeated on streaming services, those mistakes still exist. And I'm like,
yeah, they happen over
damn
and
it. I'm like, can we please? Like, I have a hard time getting past some stuff because I will still see clips of my worst behavior. And I'm like, I get it. I was terrible. Like, I don't know what else to say. So sometimes that's a little hard, but I always look at in the moment, having all of the experiences I had up until that exact moment in life, the decisions I made were exactly the decisions that I was capable of making with the information I had. You know what I mean? Like, I would make different decisions now because I have different information. But at that point, I thought I was making the right choices of what I was doing for the most part. I mean, there's still some things that I'm like, oh, that was terrible. But I had to look at it and kind of forgive that person because she was doing the best she could. You know, I had a lot of different things happening. Nobody will ever understand what it was like to film that show unless you filmed it. I mean, you know, because you saw it, but I mean, to actually sit in it every single day and to have that stress and that anxiety. I was trying to survive. I really was. And so it's easy to forgive yourself when you look back and you're like, girl, you were in survival mode. And the fact that you even got through it is admirable.
It's really important to work alongside a pastor who is welcoming and well educated in the scripture. Not all pastors are. I know
not all pastors are. I'm going to say that again. Not all pastors are.
Nope. And I fall short of the glory. I make mistakes. And so I may have said something on here today and I'll go back and go, oh, no, that's not how I meant it. You know, none of us are perfect. But the scriptures that people are talking about, let's go with Leviticus, because you brought up Leviticus in the Hebrew Bible. Notice I didn't say Old Testament, I said Hebrew Bible. So for those on the broadcast who are watching and listening who don't believe in Jesus, we should be saying Hebrew Bible, even if you do believe in Jesus. But because those are the scriptures that he studied. But in Leviticus, they are not talking about homosexuality. It was, first of all, it was a different time and a different culture. And it was actually a scripture talking about men and pedophilia. And it had nothing to do with homosexuality.
And then they changed the word to homosexuality,
1946. Yep. But that
and I'll put the link below for that, everyone. There's a film that I helped finance that is out called 1946. It's going to save lives.
It is.
I know it has already. I just find it, you know, when I start to feel anger, is that most of the time, it was these straight men that changed that word to homosexual. Most of the time, who's dating younger women underage?
Yep.
See, like that's where I feel the anger, because it's like their projection out of not wanting.
Is. And even if it's not projecting, John, we are so uncomfortable with sexuality and sex. And there is so much sex in the Bible. You know, we're banning books. Have we banned the Bible? There is sex. There is Lot sleeping with his daughters.
You know what, Dawn? You are preach. I'm liking where this is going.
Let's talk about that. Can can I like go on a thing? So in the Bible, it talks about, and this is like reading between the white. So Lot, his daughters, get him drunk to get pregnant because they had no husbands. And back then you had no value if you didn't have children. But it talks about them getting him so drunk and then sleeping with him. John, you're a guy. When men have too much to drink, things don't work.
Speak for yourself, Dawn.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
So drunk that you don't know that you're sleeping with your daughter.
I'm reading between.
And the reason it was written that way, to make it more palatable for people to hear this story, because the Bible, the scripture, the Hebrew text at the time they were verbal stories, and to make it more pleasant to hear, they said that the daughters got Lot drunk, when in fact it was probably Lot who got his daughters drunk and impregnated them. I mean, that's just science.
Do you feel that they switched that scripture then? It's not the whole truth.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to tell people, I know I've talked about kids and fans of the show. This is a podcast that is 18 and over. But when I was 19, 18, a podcast like this would have helped me so much being a young gay man, because we still have these compartmentalized things that we were taught as children. So I want everyone to know, because we're talking about some meaningful things that adults need to hear, that even maybe some people in the community that have run away from God, that are LGBTQ, to kind of understand the deception, that Jesus loves all, that, and also the anger that comes with it, with the deception, I think, at times.
Well, Jonathan and David were lovers. Go back and read it.
Where are they at? Where's John? What script? I need to read that. What is this?
You need to read that.
What chapter is it? Or what it's in the Hebrew Bible. Is it in the Hebrew Bible?
Hebrew Bible. It's in the Hebrew Bible. Google Jonathan and David, and look, and it said that they loved each other deeply. And the eunuch if you go into Acts, the eunuch is the first to be baptized. The eunuch. So someone who was queer is the first one to be baptized after the, resurrection.
My mom actually embodies the definition of ally. And I feel like so many people don't and say they do, but she really is, because she's learned and she advocates on my behalf, on the behalf of all trans kids, not just me.
Oh yeah.
And she puts her money where her mouth is. And she's had relationships in her life fall apart because of it. And I just think that can't go unsaid. You're a great listener. So listen to your kid.
What I would tell parents of children that maybe they think are gay or trans or whatever, like it's, I would love to go around and speak to high schoolers or middle schoolers or whatever. It's not hard. You listen to your kid, however your kid is feeling, you support that, and you make sure everyone that surrounds them supports that. And it's not that hard to be okay with it, because I think parents and people in these, children's families make it about them. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a gay kid. Oh my God. or I'm going to have a trans child. Oh, what's this look about me? And, Aunt Betty's going to be so upset or whatever. Like, it's not about you. It's about your kid. So take the pressure off yourself and just say, this is where we're at. I'm going to support you and I love you. And it's not that hard. It makes me crazy. It's not that hard.
It's different. It's not that hard. It's extremely different. And who made you so bold, Gina? Because that's really bold, especially
it's
being who you are and who you live. I'm sorry?
It's easier that way because I personally know a couple that has a trans child or trans adult. I think she's 21. And they are struggling and their marriage is struggling. And dad is trying to come to terms with the fact that, he now has a trans daughter. Yeah, it's different and it's a lot to think about, but how much easier is it to have your child in your life and happy and whole? I don't ever want a suicidal child. And I don't ever want to think, gosh, I wish I would have done better and my child would still be here. You know what I mean? Like, that's not worth it to me. So if that's what your child's bringing to the table, support your child 100%. And really, I promise it's not that hard, especially when they feel whole, because you have children and you think, I want my babies, my toddlers, my children, my grown adult children to be whole. That's all you want in your life, is for your kids to be whole and happy. So if it just takes you saying, okay, if this is how you feel, this is where we're at, this is what we'll do. It's so much easier than fighting it and worrying about yourself about, oh my gosh, what does this do to me? It's so much easier.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed the dance moms as well as Lennon. And remember, you can always go to their specific podcasts. That's another way to support this, to help us keep going and giving you this meaningful information, conversations, is go to any platform and follow and make sure you download the podcasts, and you can find their individual podcasts under Dance Dad with John Corella. So now we have the queen bee. I was fortunate, blessed enough to have Frank Gatson on and Darius Hickman. Frank Gatson is the dance dad to Beyonce. And he talks about how when he first met her in the 90s in Destiny's Child and started choreographing for her, he went on to choreograph for her for many years. I believe creative direct. I don't know how you say it, but he's won MTV awards and many awards for choreographing and overseeing and being her dance dad. So he talks to you about how it was seeing her for the first time. Believe she was a teenager in Destiny's Child, and how he knew she was the next Michael Jackson. So, and then Darius Hickman was on the Renaissance tour. And yes, we talked about what it was like performing with one of the biggest stars, legends that will be in history books, how it was for him dancing next to her and what he learned from her, but also just his ability to be himself and be bold and own his masculinity and femininity, which has nothing to do with sexuality. So listen up to the Beyonce episodes.
What was it that you saw in Beyonce many years ago where you knew she had it?
Well, I met Beyonce in 1997, September. The reason I was asked to come there is because Camille York from Columbia Records knew I worked with In Vogue. And she told me about this new girl group named Destiny's Child. And so I went to Morelandis on Ventura and Vineland in September of 1997. And it was just something interesting about when I walked into rehearsal, I met the four girls, Toya, Latavia, Kelly, and Beyonce. But Beyonce, you could just tell that she was gifted in something very, very special. So after working with those girls for 4 hours that day, I came out of that rehearsal talking about, I just met the second coming of Michael Jackson. And people say, what does that mean? I mean, she's as gifted. She's magical. She was beautiful. She was just something that I think my gift is to see a gift. And I saw her gift immediately.
What was it like? What did it feel like to dance, perform on that stage with Beyonce, one of the greatest performers of all time?
I honestly have still yet to wrap my feelings up in a cute bow because it's just still so surreal for me. I think this was such a big goal of mine for a really long time. I think if as a commercial dancer, a lot of people, want to dance with major artists. So that's, I think, a big goal for a lot of people. So for me, I didn't think it would happen so soon. So I think it's just taken me a lot to still even process that I've done it. But in the moment,
in the moment,
it feels right. It feels right. It doesn't feel surreal. It doesn't feel out of the ordinary. It feels just right. It feels like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here in this moment. You know what I mean? And that's not a cocky statement. It's more of the universe's timing was just perfect for me. I would not have seen myself dancing with Beyonce a few years back, This era that she's in now, for me personally, as an outsider looking in, I feel like she's in a new era, and she's inviting new people in and trying to, just show this different light for so many different types of people. And so for me, I'm one of those people that I have a lot to say. And so I think in lamest terms, she felt that energy from me. You know what I mean? So it's I felt like I was just at the right place at the right time.
Well, and that's probably very similar energy to her.
Yeah.
Being as a performer. I mean, yes, she's Beyonce, but she's a human being, everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
and we tap into something bigger than us.
Yes.
She does it while she sings and dances, and you do it while you're dancing. Exactly. I used to do it while I was dancing. So it's all kind of connected.
Exactly.
It's not, and did you feel, it sounded as though you were really present on stage in front of 95,000 people.
Absolutely. You have to be, though. You have to be in those type of super high anxiety type of situations where anything can happen. You have to be extremely present. I can't be thinking about what I'm going to be having for dinner later. That's not logical in this moment, because the sound could go out or the lights could go out, and it's what do you do then? If you're thinking about what's happening next Sunday, so I definitely think I had to learn that. I've always been a present dancer, but this tour really taught me, and her, being around her and experiencing her work ethic, it really taught me to, be present. And be prepared. Be present and be prepared, because anything can happen. You never know. And that's what makes a true professional, who can, keep the show going and keep the people entertained, no matter what.
Well, you definitely did that, and she did that. And I was there when the sound went out.
Exactly. I was going to say that was in Arizona, right? You were there.
Yes.
So, and we were people tried to say it was planned and all these things. I'm like, you really think she would plan something like that. You know what I mean? Like she would want her stage to go out. Of course not, you know? So like, it's just to show you that like, it's real, you know, like anything could happen, but it's like professionals, you got to be ready. We kept dancing, you know?
Were you on the stage when it stopped?
I was actually about to come on stage. Like I was taking steps to go on stage.
And did that ever happen, whether it would be a rehearsal or?
No, never.
I know you all enjoyed hearing that wisdom from Frank and Darius. So now let's hear some wisdom for the stage, specifically for dance competitions. We did a couple segments on mental health, which is a big thing, which is something I think we're going to be talking a lot about more as a community, of what these young kids they are, what they go through, and how we can be there for them. And Lisa Mitzel did a great job. She's a mental health coach. She works with gymnasts and dancers, and she's even worked with me at times with performing, and she's great. And she talks about honor. It's all about honoring your feelings, not pushing away your feelings while you're there. So we had to break her segment up into two. Her podcast is two podcasts. Make sure you go and listen and download it. And I've listened to it a couple times. It's great to listen to before you're going to perform, you're going to compete on the car ride, and for you moms too, and dads, because they are taking our lead. And then we have Brittany Markle, who I've known of for a long time. She was a competitive dancer who won everything and then became a competitive dance teacher. And now she's a competitive judge as well. Her wisdom and what she's learned, what's worked for her, what hasn't. And she definitely understands what someone who dances and competes goes through. So get out your notebooks and take some notes.
Two things that historically has not been the focus, has not been the priority in sports and dance is number one, honor your feelings. Like you just said.
I like that. Honor your feelings.
Yeah. Embrace it wherever you're at. If you're nervous, if you're jealous, if you're feeling insignificant, if you're feeling left out, if you're feeling, any kind of bullying coming your way and you're feeling scared, just honor that feeling right now and say, it's okay. It's okay to feel scared instead of, I shouldn't feel this way. If you're feeling jealous, gosh, that's interesting. I'm feeling jealous right now. Why? I wonder what's going on with me. Why would
Which
I
can
feel
happen
jealous?
in dance competitions, especially before. I'm sure it happens in meets too. You see this incredible gymnast go right before you. And it
happens in auditions. I've been in auditions and there's some girl that just comes out of nowhere and she's got the hair and the body and the face and the attitude and just like a magnet, she draws everybody's attention. And sure enough, you start to feel intimidated. You start to feel a little jealous that people are paying attention to her. There's all kinds of emotions. And so number one is recognizing and honoring your emotions. Okay. And then number two is how can we help build the kids up so that they can have a voice and make decisions and feel in charge of themselves? Because it's really easy for all of us adults to be in charge of everything and fix everything and take care of everything and not allow the children and the teenagers to say, you know what, I'm feeling this way and this is what I would like. This is my decision. And then we don't honor that. We try to persuade them otherwise.
Is that because we're afraid of our students and kids failing?
Yes, we're trying to teach them how to succeed. And we don't want, it's uncomfortable to watch them fail. It's uncomfortable to watch them make a decision that maybe isn't going to work out for their benefit at that moment. But that's the short term. Just like you said, when you let that little 9-year-old girl make that choice, you feel that in the long term, a year later, she's now making more decisions like a pro. And she's just 10, right?
She felt powerful too. She knew, I think it's the choice. Like, oh, I can say no.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not at the mercy of just being pulled. Oh, okay. Well, now I want to say yes. Now I want to win. You know what? Now I want to do really good at the competition.
Yes.
So I'm going to listen to him and do what he said. And yeah, I mean, it even gives me goosebumps because I felt such, it was hard, of course, watching her go. It was hard to watch her go through that because I know that feeling, and I'm sure you do, of feeling scared of something, feeling like you failed, and I was letting her know you didn't fail. You already danced. That's the thing too.
Yeah.
And also you can do it again. You are a former competitive dancer that now judges. How does that influence you judging?
I think it's almost everything other than my experience recently in the last 10 years-ish as a competitive teacher. I feel like that's more where I come from now as a judge. Okay. But I feel like I have so much understanding and so much patience and so much grace I give kind of kids whenever there's a mistake that happens or, a stumble, or I kind of want to give them what I wish people would have given me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And back in the day,
productive criticism vibe. That's not, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Well, back in the day, we didn't have, I feel as though, my critiques, everyone, were on tapes, maybe a CD when I taught, but maybe it was only CDs when you taught, correct? Your critiques.
For some reason, I remember a lot of paperwork too. Tons of written critiques.
Yes.
When I was little.
Sometimes
when
people wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nowadays you get, and everyone too, that's what we're going to do later. Mm-hmm. So hang out. We're going to actually have Brittany critique. That's what we're changing it to. We're changing it from judge to critique. I like that.
Well, dance moms and dance dads, I'm sure you got some good advice for your kids who dance. And the LGBTQ plus community, I want to say, is pretty much the foundation of the dance competition world, of the dance world. It's all about being bold and fierce. And I will say it gets exploited at times in the dance competition world by some dance moms and dance dads who don't necessarily support the community. And with that, meaning voting for our rights, voting for rights of transgender kids, and to protect all those kids. So these next episodes were bold and fierce and maybe uncomfortable to some people, not to me as a gay man, but we had Sharon Rocky, who is the director of 1946, a documentary that is now available on Amazon. And it is about how when the word homosexual was put in the Bible in 1946. Who knew? I've known for a while. A group of 20 men from Yale in 1946 put it in. It was not that word. That word didn't even exist until modern psychology as well. So she talks about it, and you're going to hear in this little segment. And I hope you all go to download the podcast and the film. It saves lives. It's going to as well. And the film in general is bold. And then we have Marc Jacobs, who is a transgender teen girl who is bold, fierce, funny, talented, wise, inspiring. And she talks about How to Find Your Family, because I feel deeply sad because I know what it was being a young kid, preteen, when other kids were being able to develop their sexuality and mine was being oppressed. So not being able to feel safe or to find your family of people that support you. And I know that still goes on, but not as much for kids like that are that know who they are sexually and what they're growing into, but also for kids as well that are regarding their gender. Now the hate is directed towards them. And the good news is, anyone listening, you are never at the effects of anyone's lovelessness. It feels like it, but you are not. So we can hear Allie talk about how to find your family. And I don't know, she just brings me so much joy, and her mom too.
So what's your elevate when people have asked you, what is 1946? What do you say?
Well, it really depends kind of where you are, and it depends on reading the room, because sometimes, talking about these things, specifically in America, you never know who is anti-LGBTQ and or then thinks being gay is a sin and might have a negative reaction. So it really depends on where I'm at. But most of the time, my elevator pitch for the movie is 1946 is a documentary film about the first time the word homosexual appeared in the Bible. Spoiler alert, it was 1946. And we have the evidence that it was a mistranslation. And so we examine how, when we use or misuse text, how it applies in our real lives, in our real application as we see it play out in our world. But then also it asks the question, who did this and why? And was it a mistranslation? And we see through the notes that the translation team did update the translation. They understood the difference between a group of people or an act that has a consequence, that has a victim, or has these negative connotations behind it, which we get into in the film. It's a little heady, but amongst it being an academic journalistic approach, it does show those real applications and lands with some humanity and humility and journey film. I don't know. We've been kind of compared to the Da Vinci Code. Somebody published in one of the articles that it's kind of like the documentary Da Vinci Code. I'll take it, So come on us with this political journey, but also real issue.
And it's your journey because you're a part of it through all of it. So it is.
Yeah, that's kind of an accident. So, my story is unique to me, but it's not, unfortunately, unique in this scenario. And I grew up in the church. My dad's a minister, so he is in the film as well. He does not believe that he's not convinced. He believes being gay is a sin. And so I felt compelled to tell this story because I knew it could help me in my walk with my non-affirming parents. And we were looking as producers and other producers in the film, et cetera, how to play out, to showcase, who would be that example that we can put next to the academics and the research that we're going through and show how it affects our lives. And so we interviewed several different people, but once my dad showed up, we knew that would be the storyline. I've known my dad my whole life, so we knew the conversations we would have. We knew where it would go. We knew what my dad was going to say. To a degree, there's always some elements of surprise while making a documentary film. And so then my dad and I had to come to a decision on whether or not to revisit those painful moments. But it afforded us an example to really showcase, for my dad, he would say, the takeaway would be love your child, stay in relationship, even if you don't agree. And I would say, that's amazing, but I agree with being in relationship. And that's one of the through lines of the film. How are we disagreeing with one another? And how are we doing relationship? And it is painful and it's different for everyone.
Well, and I'm going to say this. First of all, you're not. Okay. Yeah. Secondly, you know how many times I was forced to go to baseball I hate baseball.
Right.
Do you know how many times I was asked if I have a girlfriend when I'm 5 years old? I don't like girls. So let's just say you were doing that. It is no different than anybody else, any other parent. Especially, I'm going to say this, and I don't care, is they tried to groom me to be straight, ironically. Didn't work. So that whole grooming thing, it's projection at the end of the day. Allie, what do you have to say to kids who are afraid to come out or afraid to go in Vogue? Actually, let's do one at a time. What do you have to say to kids who are afraid to come out?
You're not alone in like the situation. You're not like the only one, because I know it might feel like you're the only like person that is going through this, but you're not. There's so many other people that are going through exactly what you're going through. And you just need to find them. You just need to find your people. And I don't remember the other question.
What would be some good places to find their people? You know, because some of them don't have amazing moms like yours.
I met most of my like drag gay friends through Instagram. And I know it's sketchy at first, but then it's like, there's like, look up any fashion race and like, you'll meet a ton of people. I'm not saying they're nice.
Yes.
They're not, but like, they are people and they are there. And there is a lot of sweet people.
And you said, look up fashion what?
Fashion races. They're all dead now, but like some of them.
So what's a fashion race?
It's basically like RuPaul's Drag Race, but like with blankets. Sorry. But it's like they're expanding. We have like fashion races, and then now we have like T4, which is like a drag race, and they give you money, and it's like.
So just like she said, it's basically RuPaul, and it's a group of kids who do drag, and they do it online. They weren't able, there's not a lot of, maybe they don't have a community of kids who do drag. And so they have all gotten together and they do it online, and they have the fashion shows. They get together on a Discord server and they are all performing. Literally, Ali can be at 9:00 at night in her room, dancing with 10 kids from all over the world who are doing the exact same thing as she is.
That's amazing. Say that again. I would totally have done that if I was a kid.
Exactly. And so they're called fashion races, or,
okay.
They go into fashion races. Then there's, fashion competitions. Some of them dance. Some of them are strictly fashion. But it's exactly like RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, some weeks she would have me running around making clothes out of paper. We were making clothes out of anything. Yeah,
I got eliminated that episode.
We got eliminated that episode. It wasn't good. But it's literally like doing RuPaul.
Oh my gosh, I need to watch this.
Well, I know you all feel inspired to go and be your authentic self. So with that, on to our acting segment with Howard Fine, who is the best acting teacher in Los Angeles. He was awarded that, so I'm not lying. It's just not my opinion. And Alisan Porter, who won The Voice, was on Star Search, is a recording artist, and was a child star in the movies Curly Sue, and I think she was in Parenthood and tons of films. And so being your authentic self comes nerves, especially on a stage, especially on a set. So Howard Fine, who I've been taking acting class with since 2007, has helped me deal with nerves. I feel nerves. I felt nerves doing this podcast, and he creates such a safe space to have them, and to love them. He doesn't say it like that, but listen to his podcast and to this segment, get a little sneak peek on when he talks about nerves. And Alisan Porter talking about what the it factor is to her. And she doesn't talk about it in this segment, but she talks about it on the podcast. So go listen to about how being of service is when your art is at its, I don't even like that word best, when it's art, I would just say, when you are being of service. So here's Howard and Alisan.
He said he would never step on a stage. He tried to once and was mortified, but because of his upbringing of being in the military, that he wouldn't last one time in one of your classes because of what comes up, the nerves. And you're a master, Howard. One, you are a master at teaching, at least with me, and I know other people, how to deal with nerves. And it's a safe space to have them, even when it doesn't feel like that. What is your technique on nerves?
Okay, first of all, not to try to get rid of them. Self-consciousness is the word you should use instead of nervousness, because it's consciousness of self.
I'm writing that down.
It's where your attention is placed. And it's actually an extension of our ego. We're worrying about how we're going to do. So if any of us become self-conscious, we're worrying about ourselves. There is an antidote, which is attention off yourself. In acting, it's on who you're talking to and what you want. If I am by nature self-conscious and shy by nature, I'm an introvert.
You're saying you are, or are you giving an example?
I am.
Oh, you are?
I am. Yeah. You can find me at any party in the corner somewhere. Because
not my
even
party.
My own. Oh, sorry. But in any case, I'm shy.
Yeah.
And there are other artists who are. If I focus now, as I'm talking to you, on how I'm doing, if I'm speaking well, how I'm coming across, I will freeze. Anybody would. But if I put my attention on you and on what you are asking me and trying to answer your questions, I'm fine. I'm in the moment. So it's a matter of where you place your attention. If you allow the attention to be on yourself and how you're doing, you're not going to be breathing deeply. You're going to feel anxious. If you take the attention off yourself on who you're talking to and what you want, you'll be fine. But we have to stop worrying about how we are coming across, because that's what causes the shutdown.
Thank you for that.
I feel I'm going to have to answer this for you, because you'll probably say no, but you've always had it. I mean, how old were you when you won Star Search?
5. I've always had it, but I think my it centers mostly when I'm in front of a microphone. I have it with dance. I definitely have. I think my physicality was not perfect for dance, but it worked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have everything the way I wish that I had it.
You have legs and feet.
I could turn, I could jump, and I could perform. I could make you feel. I think that's it. Okay. That's what I mean by it. If you can bring someone in and make them feel, I don't care if you're not the most technical, the most perfect, the most this, most that. If you can bring somebody into your world when you are performing in any capacity, that's it. And I think that's what I have above anything else, any of my other talents, whether it's singing, dancing, acting, whatever. When I'm doing those things, I include you.
And that's why you're good at it. Because like we said earlier, you're not making about yourself.
Right. And I think the reason why I learned that, and the reason I can be of service to the audience, is because that's what I was taught.
Who taught you that?
I think I'm probably my grandmother and a lot of really good teachers. It's about being of service. If you're performing for yourself, the audience knows.
I love that. That makes me feel so. Anything we do is about service. This podcast is about service. Dancing, anything we do. If you're going, you're someone who cuts hair, that's about service.
I know the days where I am doing it for me. And those are the days that I don't feel the best about what I do.
That's what these questions were today. I was like, They got to be these perfect. And I was like, you know what? I'm going off of spirit and what I love about Alisan, and have this conversation, a meaningful one that people need.
Talk about nerves. We have our Olympics podcast that is out, and we're just finishing up the Olympics about a month ago. And these two women, these people who did gymnastics and ran at vaults and flipped in the air 2 times and twisted and had things named after them, Daniela Silvas and Christy Phillips. And besides dance moms, you all love Olympic gymnasts. These were some of the most highly heard podcasts. So Daniela is so humble, why I love her, and is known as a legend in the sport, up there with Nadia and Mary Lou and all of the greats. Simone Biles even does her move called the Silva. So if you go to her podcast and listen to it, you can hear how that came about in 1988 of her doing it at the Olympics. And then we have Christy Phillips, bold, fierce, uses her voice. That's the one thing about Christy in this podcast, is she uses her voice and is unapologetic. So in this segment, she's talking about her relationship with the Corollis, who were her coaches when she was the Olympic team alternate.
I'm sorry. I should put them in a case and just I don't know, do all the stuff, and I don't.
Look at, you can do a little backdrop like me.
Yeah, something. I don't have any gymnastic pictures like framed. I think I have one in the house that it's framed gymnastic picture, and that's it. I don't know. I feel like gymnastic was my life and it was that life, but
yeah,
but not anymore. So I try to focus on family and kids and friends, and that's the main, life now. So,
but because of your accomplishments, do you get called more now during an Olympic year to do interviews and things like that?
No, I don't, and I think it's more because I don't stay in the social media. So if you're not out there and you don't put yourself out there, they don't. When I go home, like I went in April home, and of course they were asking me to do an interview for the Olympics, and kind of like before the Olympics and all that, and it was fun. It's not I don't enjoy those. I just don't. I don't know. I'm a very private person, and I like it that way. I don't feel comfortable talking about my accomplishments. Yes, they were my accomplishments, but I feel like they're mine, and I didn't do them to get that recognition. So I don't feel really comfortable. People are like, "Oh, she won a gold medal," and I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So, kind of like.
Well, and I feel people only do that because even in this Antique Roadshow, they were saying the percentage of the population. It's more about the data of who has this thing. It's not like you can go and buy it.
Yes. We grew up just, this is what we need to do. And at that time, there were not like, TikTok, Facebook, all that social media. So it wasn't big deal. Yes, we won. But then after winning, guess what? I went back in the gym and we did the same thing over. It didn't matter that I won. The next day, I was back in the gym training like everybody else. So,
were you ever allowed to kind of feel your accomplishments, like, party, rejoice, feel proud?
Well, I think feeling proud, yes, but it was never, let's have a party because you won a medal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after the Olympics, we were in Seoul for another week. And guess what we did? We went back in the gym.
And who were your coaches?
Marta and Bella Crowley.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a very good relationship with Marta because I was working with Marta as a judge and she was still in control. And the way she treated people was awful. Awful. If you were 1/10 off on a score, she made you bring up your papers and sat you down in front of like all the coaches. She sat me down in front of all the coaches and like belittled me, like demoralized me. You need to do this and you better do this and you can't be. I'm like, dude, I'm a judge. I was an athlete and I'm not playing a game when I'm sitting on that judging floor. I'm not going to do what people tell me to do. I'm going to look at the routine that's in front of me in that moment, in that time, and whatever athlete it is, I will give them the score that they deserve, in my opinion. And I'll be true to myself because at the end of the day, that's what I'm there to do. I did the studying, I took the test, I passed the test, and it's my job to be as accurate as I can be to know and apply all the rules correctly and to give that athlete what they deserve.
And I know I can feel it. You really,
I'm very passionate about that.
You love judging too.
I do.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like having been that athlete and having been a product of that environment of the 80s that was so political, I could never in my right heart ever do anything other than what was fair for an athlete.
Well, that's a lot. You all have a lot to listen to. And if you haven't gone to these podcasts, please go and on any podcast platform and download and follow. Make sure you download and hit that button off to the side that downloads each episode. It really helps to keep this podcast going, and I appreciate it. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart to everyone who listens. And there has been so many great people on this podcast. We have a few more this season coming up, which I'm super excited about. And thanks again and enjoy.
Thank you so much for listening to Dance Dad with John Corella. Thank you to everyone at Hivecast for all that you do. And if this episode meant something to you, please share it and subscribe. Also, you can follow Dance Dad with John Corella on all platforms. But most importantly, remember to be bold and be fierce.